reading that little line, I will be arrested for not taking a fucking vaccine. This is not a fucking joke anymore. This is fucking dead serious. I am fucking dead serious. These people don't know who the fuck they're actually playing with. Yeah, in a group they might come and fucking intimidate me and whatnot, but fuck, they do not understand what the fuck just one person like myself is capable of. They do not fucking understand. No fucking vaccine or mRNA will ever flow through my fucking ball blood. Never! I will fucking die fucking fighting for my forefathers and my fucking lineage. Fuck these motherfuckers.
All right. Yes, everything's working. Boom. First go. All right. So why am I streaming today? I was in here because I wanted to fix errors from yesterday, and I'm not supposed to be here. I should be on my sick bed, and but you lay still for 24 hours, and I've been taking the whatever Eliquis for quite a few days now. So I'm feeling, how should we say, top notch, top drawer, as they say. So we'll do a little stream, chill Saturday night for the viewers in the US. Hope lull you to sleep, and on the way, hope you hit the tip jar. Sound is good. Excellent. And so the issue we had yesterday was we were going to the wrong Rumble channel, right? So it didn't go to the correct Rumble channel, but everything else was okay. And the camera glitch at the start, that's a kind of random one, I'm afraid. Usually my sort of checklist as I sit in the cockpit here is to check that is working, but I must have forgot. So like my monitor which says, is the camera working, says it's working. And yesterday, why didn't it work yesterday? All right, Zoom, right? So I'd already connected with Nick, and so unless, depending on how you set software up, it'll grab the camera feed and not share it, whereas what you have to do is run OBS and give the feed out from OBS, and then it grabs it that way. And I hadn't done that. Shame on me for such amateurish mistakes after how many years of streaming live, off the cuff. There are still fuck ups that you have to get round, but I must admit I'm enjoying just being able to sit down, punch out a title, punch it into Twitter, and I still do the email, of course. I should automate that, but yeah, it's I should say it's easy life now for the doc with streaming compared to what it was not so long ago. So what are we going to do? Well, there was a manuscript that came out last week before, and I think it's incumbent upon us to look at because it involves children in this instance. And I don't care about all you you aged. I'm aged, man. Like if I've got 2 score left, 1 score left, I think I'll be shocked at the rate I'm going. But it's children that we need to protect. It's our job, right? You are. It's dropped onto your shoulders, Lixivittles, as you age out, that you leave the world a better place than what was left for you. And I think the current systems that we're leaving are, one, they're getting out of control as technology becomes ever more tyrannical, which was sort of the subject of yesterday's stream, which is we need to imbue into these kids that the answer punched out by Grok or whatever other LLM you're using should be taken with a pinch of salt. It's like any other time, right? You do your research. The problem is I think the people are likely to just defer to the machine, let the machine do the thinking for them. And there's already studies out showing that in terms of compared to like reading a book, the use of LLMs leads to fundamental changes in the way that your brain wires and fires together. Hey Doc, I heard WAC 100 has compromising footage of Trump in a thong. I have no idea who that is, and I dread to think of Trump in a thong. But who knows? No doubt. Look, all those who hasn't been captured by that blackmail net. That's why you're getting the response that you are. Trump knows that everyone is, or anyone of any import is likely being snapped in their BDSM outfit, cavorting on Epstein plains and islands. What are we going to do right now? Yes, like even the victims are dropping out because I don't. Why would they drop out? Threats? I don't know. Again, there could be lots of variables at play, but if they're, are they going to get justice? I don't know. Maybe. I'd like to think that they would, but for all the feeder girls that were fed through the Epstein network, that's actually small potatoes compared to what happened in the UK and the industrial scale rape of minors by Mohammedans. And that's something that I have personal experience of, right? In the living in that environment. So I'm far more concerned about those kids and what's happened. What happens to them, because they are the Untermensch in this instance. High glam pedo victims are likely to get, as unfortunate as it is, are likely to get an easier landing than the girls who were subject to the predations of Mohammedans. That's the way I see it, and yeah, you can moan and kvetch all you want, but until you're up and out doing something about it, being angry on the internet doesn't count for that much, I'm afraid. Of course, it's important just to keep subjects alive. I get it. But you ain't doing... Oh, what can you do? I don't know. Like, what you go... We go and start... they want you to start that civil war. Right, they want you to pick up that weapon because then they've got their excuse to use their weapons on you. And we're so outgunned in this instance that the only winning strategy at this point is to let that system, or let the system, implode on its own contradictions. And I'm not sure if that's possible. So in the meantime, just keep your fucking head down. Make sure that whatever it is you keep by your side cocks and should you need it, but don't go out on the streets with it. I know people have with like the flag campaign in the UK, but then how much of that is just zogged? There's so much of it, and so much of it seems tainted to me. I'm like I say, all I can do is like work towards solutions to what they have done. Right? I had how should we say, a wine. I was railing at the camera the other day just because of what I see as war aims achieved again, like you did after 9/11. And what was the point I was making at the time, which is, in order for them to achieve the levels of atrocity that they have, they had to radically move the Overton window, if the Overton window even applies in this instance. Drones are the new guns. Yeah. I need to get another one. I've got one, but like 2, 3, or 4 in the bag would be good strategic thinking. Problem is they're just so expensive because the demand is so high. But see, YouTube some comments I post won't show. I mean, YouTube probably has some filters on. I don't know. I haven't set it to block naughty words. But if you want to use colourful language, go use Rumble or WTYL, or any of the other platforms that we have. The Duck pays a lot of money for. I've got to pare that back. Actually, because it's just out of hand. All right, so yeah, what was I saying? It's just, I feel that I can paint a very, very strong causal line between the onset of this hybrid warfare that you're in, that was ignited by biological warfare, and in that shift, as authorities acted in sync globally, they ignited the other horrors of this war, which I put very much at it's Europe. It's just hanging off the end of Europe, right? But Ukraine is part of the European continent, and the horror show that was the Gaza Strip. And look, I've got no love for Mohammedans. Sorry, I think most of them are fucking bananas, but you don't go dropping ordnance meant for wars like Ukraine on civilian populations. That's a no-no, and you should be at least expressing, saying not in your name, man. I don't know, like I say, what else do you do in this instance? Certainly don't go and pick up guns to go fight on one side or the other. You're just morally tainting yourself in that instance, or just painting a target on your back. And it's funny, I was right in front of me. Let's see. I was just scrolling through my notes, and I had this one from it's a few weeks ago now, but maybe I even spoke about it at the time. Let me see. Just switch to this. British Merc Edward Harris, responsible for leading the Kursk offensive, has taken his own life. NATO officer who led Ukraine into Russia's Kursk claimed the losses were so many and unbearable. He blamed the AFU command and stepped down, but the PTSD never left him. And there he is with 2 young kids, and I don't know how he took his life. Probably blew his brains out. Happens to a lot of ex-servicemen. And my advice is, don't go dying for Zog today, Ligspittles. Just don't do it. There is your job is to keep that younger generation safe, right? So they get into adulthood and they too don't get punked by Zog. Okay, that's your job. That's it. And if you should lead a long and joyful life, but that should be your primary point of duty in this current war. And so the thing I wanted to talk about today is this Lancet study that has come out, which shows that youngsters like those two who have lost a father to Zog War are being impacted upon reinfection with long COVID symptoms, phenotypes. And we're in a position now where we think we understand very acutely what drives that pathology. And so I want to take a look at what that manuscript says, and then we'll sort of wrap it up for the wait, I can't stop there. Just underneath that note, I just caught it out the corner of my eye. This one, of course, which was this is from Michaela Peterson. Hey, as you know, Jordan Peterson. Now look, man, I don't mind listening to a bit of Jordan Peterson. I get it, he's being zogified, but you know, pick the dog crap off and pick out the pearls of wisdom that he does drop, right? Which is tidy your room. Tidy your room. Stop masturbating. A lot of people have been asking for updates, so here's one. He's recovering slowly day by day, but I won't lie, it's slow and scary. He won't be back for another few months at least, probably longer. We're not entirely sure what's going on, but it looks like possibly severe CIRS. I don't know what that is. Let me just check. What would CIRS be as a medical diagnosis? No, fucking GPT-5. But whilst it's thinking, chronic inflammatory response syndrome. Oh, yeah. Imagine my shock. Imagine my shock where this was a man who's basically implored the Canadians to go out and get jabbed up in the throes of biological warfare with the secondary element of the binary agent that makes up the COVID landscape, and now he's all messed up. And I would say this, Dr. Peterson, send me a sample of your blood. It's very easy. You just need a little pinprick, like from one of these, and send it to me, and I can look at it like I'm having to look at mine right now. And I'll just bring that up on the screen, and I bet you Dr. Peterson's blood looks a lot like the doc's blood here, full of microclots. And like I say, I know what the pathology is, right? I've been looking at it enough again and again and again. She has lupus. She's loopy, if you ask me. But isn't she being pegged by Andrew Tate? Wasn't that something? Or did I make that up? Is that part of a fever dream somewhere? But yeah. Let's see. To be perfectly honest, I think a lot of this is spiritual. I don't know, man. Not when you're dealing with amyloidogenic spike proteins. I don't think I need spirits to invoke symptom profile there. Let's see. He came to stay with them. Let's see, they needed a hospital the same day. He went to the hospital by ambulance. My newborn turned blue again at home for a different reason, not heart-related, and went to a different hospital by ambulance within 3 hours of each other. It's been one thing after another. That's weaponized amyloids for you, I'm afraid. I don't know what else to tell you. That perhaps we have a solution, maybe. A lot of people have been DMing me, asking about the treatment that I want to get to Nurse Lindsay. So I'll just show that on the screen real quick. Where did it go? it that one? I don't know. I've got yeah, I think it's this one. Let's see. Oh, bring this over here. And yes, when dealing with, so what was the first sign that we had something that worked? So I've been doing a lot with respect to trying to understand what causes, or is there a way to stop the misfolding cascade in let me just put the chat there so I don't have to keep looking over my shoulder. So is there a way to stop the clotting cascade with, and I've been trying all manner of flavonoids, etc. But the one thing I found that did work under these sort of testing conditions where we've been using like an RT quick type setup was, I'll just show this, was stem cell growth factors. These are stem cell growth factors from Edogawa Hospital, and this is, it's a standard out result and one I should probably write up, but I want more clean data than what I have at the moment. Now, of course, I could probably just throw it up as a preprint, but I don't know. There's something about the how do you say prevaricating part of my brain, which I sort of tie myself up in knots about what I should and shouldn't do. But we also have now real life testing on patients, and there's a backstory to this, so I encourage you to go and watch other streams that I've done where I was able to look at this particular patient's blood. It had all the hallmarks and signatures of someone carrying a high amyloid burden and being in a hyper-inflamed state. And so what you're looking at on the screen is the autofluorescence that we see in his blood. Now, blood should not autofluoresce, okay? And this is a, it's not a good sign. Let's put it that way, right? If I see that, there's an issue going on. And so so we were able to do treatment, and so this I've just sort of played with the data a little bit, and just to help the results stand out. But using double filtration plasma apheresis with large infusion of stem cell growth factors, we're able to take the autofluorescence from this to this, and we're able to take the clots to something like this. So a very, very significant change on what's a very rapid timescale in terms of treatment. So the results are there within hours to days of doing the treatment protocols. And that's not the only measurements we have. Of course, we were able to show reductions in key inflammatory cytokines, particularly interferon alpha. And there was, what were the other ones? It was interleukin 12, interleukin 6, and a handful of others. You can go and I've done more in-depth reviews of this data and the whole shebang, as it were. But this is where I think our efforts should go, as we know that we have a very, very large cohort of people who have been impacted. It runs into the millions. And so what the fuck is this delusion supporting garbage? I don't know. You tell me. I deal with scientific data. I don't know what you deal with. So I will do this and this. Of course, remind you that Trump said it McCairn was right about bioweapons and their sources in this instance. Just a reminder that if you want to keep science for the people, by the people, McCairndojo.com. I work solely through donations. There's no large institutes funding me to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. This has all been done off people donating to what they see as a worthy cause. It's all transparent. You get to see me doing the work in the lab. You get the results near enough as real time as I get them. And if you are wanting to get a measure, you want some indicator of the state of your blood, whether you hold a high amyloid burden like this or like I have currently, there's mine. You can go to synaptechlabs.com and you can do this and you can send your blood there. There's a simple instructional video and links to all the supplies that you would need to send a little sample, and it arrives in a little case like this, and then what I will do is I will look at the slide live with you. I'll arrange a Zoom call with you and we'll look at it in real time, and I'll give you my assessment, and then depending on the severity that we see there, you can think about if you want to go towards the therapies to remove the amyloids that come from spike protein, be it either from the disease or the vaccine. Like I say, I'm agnostic as to the source. I see injury from both, and I'm just here trying to clear up their mess. Right. Quick reminder that we should be live on wetalkyouListen.com. Please try and use that facility. Use it or lose it, or it'll go away. It's expensive. And yeah, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the stream. So apparently, Lindsay's saying, I've never seen so many people secretly jealous. I was offered possibly life-saving treatment in Japan. Just trying not to die. Yeah. The treatment is available to everyone. All I'm doing is saying, because we know Lindsay's clinical records, and we have detailed records from her going back 3 years and the extent of her injury, we can use that as a very, very strong marker to test the efficacy of the stem cell plasma apheresis protocol that we're working on in Japan. And I would like Lindsay to be able to fly to Japan and not have to worry about the costs of the treatment. I'm afraid nothing in this life is free, I'm afraid, and there are costs involved in doing this treatment, but it's way, way cheaper than anything you're likely to get in the US. And just a reminder that in the US, what we're seeing is what we would expect to see with next-gen biowarfare agents that are geared towards incapacitation. That is essentially a logarithmic rise in the people who are unable to work. They're unable to work, like Jordan Peterson right now. Why? Because your blood is filling up with amyloids. Amyloids that your usual blood tests do not detect. You need a specialized approach, and the simple fact is, most clinicians in most countries, one, either don't know about it, or two, will just gaslight you away. And what they do is if you're complaining that you're struggling, your joints hurt, you can't sleep, your muscles ache, you have brain fog, they will diagnose you as having functional neurological disorder. It's a terrible diagnosis, especially when we're able to see the pathology in real time, and in real time eliminate it such that we can reduce the amyloid burden in the blood, reduce the cytokine signaling cascades, and put your body back into a more normal physiological type, and hopefully in that transition, your body then turns its attention to anywhere that there might be reservoirs from which spike protein may be causing these amyloid cascades. But until you treat this underlying problem, it ain't going away. And the statistics from the labor, what's it called, Labor and US Bureau of Labor statistics, argue with those, not me. So what else? Yeah, that's always a quick reminder as well that as per predictions, the eat more silver. Yeah. Keep this data point in your mind, which is that the number of prescriptions for riluzole, which is a glutamate antagonist, which is prescribed, the only illness it's prescribed for is ALS, are showing exponential increases in their dispensing. That again should worry you. Now, does it mean that people are developing ALS? Maybe the clinicians have found that this drug has a wider therapeutic repertoire than just ALS, and we know that there was the Japanese study which showed that there's the upregulation in, I forgot which glutamate receptor it was now, but there's a upregulation to those receptors, and maybe riluzole is helping in that, and it has an effect on brain fog. Who knows? But that's treating the symptoms, not the cause. And I would say the cause is the amyloids that are now building up in many people's bloodstreams. So with that in mind, I want to go to this manuscript, which is Long COVID associated with SARS-CoV-2 reinfection among children and adolescents in the Omicron era, the Recover EHR retrospective cohort study. Now, I don't like the problem with epidemiological studies is that they are prone to warping, just dependent upon the algorithms that you deploy with the data, and unless they're completely transparent, it's very easy to push the needle one way or the other. But in this instance, when it involves the children who didn't ask to be exposed to these agents, we should do our best, right? You put your best foot forward, soldier, and keep an eye on where the impacts are happening, where the assault is happening. So, the summary. Post-acute sequelae of SARS-CoV-2 infection remain a major public health challenge. Although previous studies have focused on characterizing PASC in children and adolescents after initial infection, the risk of PASC after reinfection with the Omicron variant remain unclear. We aim to assess the risk of PASC diagnosis and symptoms and conditions potentially related to PASC in children and adolescents after a SARS-CoV-2 reinfection during the COVID Omicron period. Can I change? That's literally the best view I can get, but the mic stand is kind of blurring. Can I move the screen? Better, a little. Right, so this retrospective cohort study used data from 40 children's hospitals and health institutes in the USA participating in researching COVID to enhance recovery. We included patients younger than 21 years at the time of cohort entry with documented SARS-CoV-2 infection after January 1st, 2022, and who had at least one healthcare visit within 24 months to 7 days before the first infection. The second SARS-CoV-2 infection was confirmed by positive PCR, antigen tests, or a diagnosis of COVID-19 that occurred at least 60 days after the first infection. The primary endpoint was a clinician-documented diagnosis of PASC. Secondary endpoints were 24 symptoms and conditions previously identified as being potentially related to PASC. We used the modified Poisson regression model to estimate the relative risk between the second and first infection episodes, adjusted for demographic, clinical, and healthcare utilization factors using exact and propensity score matching. Now, those are just statistical terms that you're going to plug into your algorithm to say what's a Poisson distribution. So normally a Poisson distribution in its not native form, but is if you're looking at data that is unrelated, is essentially a distribution, a normal distribution, and just think a sort of sigmoidal type curve, and then as you change the Poisson distribution, you shift one way or another, and you check with the statistics or the Poisson statistic to see if it becomes significant or not. So they found that out of 407,300 records, so that's a lot, that's a big patient database, right? So more patients, the higher the power the statistics have. 465,717 eligible children and adolescents with a first infection episode, and 58,417 with a second infection episode from January 1st, 2022 to October 13th, 2023 in the recovered database. Of these, 233,842, 50.2% patients were male, or whatever, 49.8% were female. The mean age was, I don't know if that's 8 to 17, no, 8, I think that's supposed to be 8.17 years. Why do they put their point in the middle of the number? That's odd. All right, anyway. But standard deviation 6.58. The incident rate of past diagnosis, so the diagnostic code U0 9.9 per million people per 6 months was 903.7. 95, whatever their confidence interval is. I'm sure we'll see it in the graph. So in the first infection group, and the range is whatever, 1565 to 2202 in the second infection group. So here's the important part. Reinfection was associated with a significantly increased risk of an overall PASC diagnosis and a range of symptoms and conditions potentially related to PASC, including myocarditis, changes in taste and smell, thrombophlebitis, thromboembolism, heart disease, acute kidney injury, fluid and electrolyte disturbance, generalized pain, arrhythmias, abnormal liver enzymes, chest pain, fatigue, malaise, headache, musculoskeletal pain, abdominal pain, mental ill health, POTS or dysautonomia, cognitive impairment, skin conditions, fever and chills, respiratory signs and symptoms, and cardiovascular signs and symptoms. And there's many that I tick off on that. And particularly the last run-in with COVID in February has left lasting effects on me, right? Enough to put me in hospital with pulmonary embolisms, okay? It's not, and that was for sure, like I thought maybe I had it in between from my first run-in, but for sure, definitely this year in February, I got COVID, and it was unpleasant, right? And marked with the weird changes to taste and smell. That was the first indicator that I had that something wasn't quite right. So whatever, funded by NIH. So since the onset of COVID-19, PASC, SARS-CoV-2 infection, also known as long COVID, has emerged as a pronounced global concern. Yeah, no shit. With substantial long-term health effects in adults and children, defined by US National Institutes of Health and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention as new or ongoing health problems persisting at least 4 weeks after infection. PASC spans a wide range of symptoms and syndromes affecting multiple organ systems. Although existing research has characterized the clinical features and burden of PASC in adults and children, the clinical presentation differs markedly between these populations. In adults, PASC often includes respiratory, cardiovascular, and neurocognitive sequelae, whereas children and adolescents tend to have more heterogeneous and non-specific symptoms, such as fatigue, mood changes, dizziness, and abdominal pain. Actually, all the things that my youngest keeps complaining of in the last few weeks. Funnily enough. understanding how Pascal and the thing is, I've made a point of not testing my children. I could do. I don't because, well, up till now there was little we could do, and so I didn't see the point of just going and sticking them, grabbing a blood sample to have a look. They either have the symptoms or they don't. Now the question is, would I put my children through the protocols that we have developed, which involves apheresis? I consider apheresis a relative. It's not a non-benign intervention. An IV line of stem cell growth factors is like, you could send them for that. They're likely not going to enjoy it. Kids don't like needles at the best of times, and they're not at any threshold where I would want to inflict that upon them right now. If they were bedbound, for sure, but they're not. They're still kind of acting like kids do. So in this case, I think you have to tread very, very carefully when it comes to children. Now, that doesn't mean that there are not children who are at risk, and I actually shouldn't be telling people about my DMs, but I think it's such a famous case that I will talk about it. But Cody, so this is a, let me bring the tweet up here. So someone asked, can you just donate blood instead of apheresis? It's just the volume of blood that gets put through. You can't take that volume out and send it off somewhere for cleaning and expect to be okay. So the idea is that you do it locally within a circuit, much like sort of kidney dialysis in this instance. And, you know, if Cody here is suffering from DVTs and they even strokes, right? That's a case where you say, okay, we clear the deck and get him treated as soon as possible. Now, I don't know what the life-saving drug is that they're talking about in this instance. Let's just see if it mentions it. Not that I can see. But it's probably something just like Eliquis that they're trying. I mean, that's what I'm taking at the moment, right? Just to help with the chest pain. And I do think Eliquis helps with symptomatic relief, for sure. Does it solve the problem? No, it doesn't. And so in something like Cody's case, where you can bulk filter the blood, so that and then of course you need the stem cell to normalize the humoral signaling within the blood, such that it stops the aggregation, right? So the more out of line or out of kilter your cytokines, the more it's going to contribute to aggregation in this instance. Now, if he has deep DVTs and clots on the lungs, it's not pleasant, I can tell you from personal experience. And will will bringing Cody to Japan and deploying the therapeutics or therapeutic interventions that we have help him? I'd like to think so, because it's aimed directly at the pathology that you're seeing right here, which is, and again, the clotting that he's having is not the normal clotting cascades. It's amyloid clotting. So maybe we can help Cody. I'm in touch with the mother now. All right. So where were we? Back to the manuscript. So yeah, children have a sort of heterogeneous display of symptoms. And what do they do here? Research in context, research PubMed for articles published, yada yada, around COVID-19. They're doing searches for SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, PASC. This search yielded 9 studies examining the association between SARS-CoV-2 reinfection and the development of post-acute sequelae of SARS-CoV-2. Most studies focused on adult populations, with few addressing pediatric cohorts. Several studies suggested that repeated SARS-CoV-2 infections might increase the risk of long-term health complications. I have no argument with that. What's patently missing from this manuscript is descriptions of or inclusion of and mention of vaccine status. Anyway, so however, data on pediatric population remains scarce. The identified studies often face limitations, such as small sample sizes, reliance on self-reported data, and short follow-up, which hinder the ability to draw definitive conclusions about the risk of PASC after reinfection in children and adolescents. Furthermore, variations in PASC definitions and diagnostic criteria across studies contribute to inconsistencies in the reported outcomes. Whatever. This is them puffing themselves up, saying we're the first to do this type of study. And the implications of the available evidence says the growing frequency of SARS-CoV-2 reinfections in the Omicron era underscores the need to understand the long-term consequences. Our findings indicate that PASC risk persists after reinfection in children and adolescents, although the magnitude might vary by previous infection history, severity, and here we go, vaccination status. The results suggest that reinfections might contribute to the cumulative morbidity. Ongoing long-term follow-up is essential for informing clinical care and public health strategies to mitigate pediatric burden of long COVID. So they are including vaccine status. We'll see how that shakes out in their data if they mention it. Just bear with me. Let's see. Good to see you, Brienne and Jenna. Now, I did the thing about, there was something else. Beach Dwell says, my heart rate has recently changed. It's gone faster. I think it's because of the vaccine. I got that fog in me. Maybe. Do I think there's benefit to fasting? Yes, I do. So if there are cells that are like essentially zombie-like cells, right, that they've been infected or transfected and are spitting out spike protein, essentially they're unhealthy cells, and in a apoptotic favorable environment, they would hopefully be sort of cannibalized first, and hopefully you sort of feel some relief after. But it's not a given that that's going to happen. All right, so on with the manuscript. So with the emergence of Omicron variants, SARS-CoV-2 reinfections have markedly increased, likely due to the immune evasive and fast-spreading nature of Omicron variants, the generally milder acute presentation compared with earlier variants, and a declining booster uptake in the UK and USA. This shift in the pandemic landscape has led to uncertainties regarding the risk of PASC after reinfection, particularly by Omicron. Understanding the long-term consequences of reinfection is crucial, as even mild or asymptomatic cases could contribute to substantial morbidity. I agree with this. There are a lot of walking amyloided, I suppose you could say. And again, the problem with amyloid is the, again, surreptitious disease-like mechanisms that generally you might not notice until you go past that break point and you precipitously dive into the disease state. But because of their self-like presenting properties, they're unlikely. Not that unlikely is the wrong way to put it. There are many who will be walking around thinking they're okay, or might just only have mild symptoms such that they just shake them off, drink an extra cup of coffee, whatever's your go-to solution to help you feel a bit better. So where were we? So in adult populations, several observational studies have investigated the risk of PASC after reinfection. Most found that individuals with reinfection had a higher risk of developing PASC compared to... Oh, and I'll just make a note. The way that this manuscript was phrased was that not keeping up with vaccination leads to more... I don't know if to say it's more. Let me just read that again. Declining booster uptake. So like that might lead to more children developing long COVID. And so their argument being that, and I presume that they've tested that in this study, we'll see, that if children are up to date with their boosters, they should not be in this cohort. So let's see, we did that. Adult populations developing PASC. So evidence on the effect of reinfection on PASC risk in pediatric populations remains scarce. 5 studies focused on children and adolescents, most of which relied on survey data with small sample sizes and an insufficient adjustment for confounding factors. Notably, 3 of those studies focused on the Omicron period, but were based on self-reported outcomes and did not have clinically verified diagnosis or detailed information on comorbidities or healthcare utilization. These studies generally reported no significant difference in risk of PASC between children with reinfection and those with only one infection, but the interpretation of these findings could be restricted by the small sample size and insufficient statistical power. To our knowledge, this study is the first and largest investigation based on longitudinal electronic health records of PASC after SARS-CoV-2 reinfection in children and adolescents using data from institutions participating in the NIH funding Researching COVID to Enhance Recovery initiative. Let me have a look at that, just for my own edification later. So we aim to assess the risk of PASC diagnosis, ICD-10 CM code U09.9, and symptoms and conditions potentially related to PASC using definitions established in pediatric literature. The studies investigating risk of PASC after reinfection in adult populations used 2 main analytical approaches. One approach compared individuals with a second infection to those without a second infection, second versus no second infection, aiming to estimate the effect of reinfection on PASC, with the counterfactual scenario in which no reinfection occurred. The second approach compared individuals after their second infection to those after their first infection during the same calendar period, second versus first infection, isolating reinfection-specific risk within a similar follow-up timeframe. In this study, we adopt the second approach to enable comparability in calendar time and time since infection. So this retrospective cohort study included 40 children's hospitals and health institutions in the USA. We included patients younger than 21 years at the time of cohort entry, consistent with the pediatric definition used by the US Department of Health and Human Services and the American Academy of Pediatrics. Eligible participants had a documented SARS-CoV-2 infection after January 1st, 2022, which is when Omicron variants were considered to have completely displaced earlier variants, and at least one healthcare visit within the baseline period, defined as 24 months to 7 days before the first infection, to ensure active interaction with the healthcare system. For the first infection group, the infection had to occur on or after January 1st, 2022. For the second infection group, the second infection had to occur after January 1st, 2022, and the first infection could have occurred during earlier variant phases. I'm wondering how they're just making that, how hard that is as a filter here. it could be easy. It could be how much of that secondary infection is just a first infection, and maybe your or what you thought you had previously was not COVID but some other respiratory type illness. Who knows? I mean, I sort of see a chink in the methodology there. That's all. First documented SARS-CoV-2 infection was defined by positive PCR serology antigen tests or diagnosis of COVID-19. So again, you're relying on yeah, that's COVID. Now, was that done through like telehealth, etc.? How accurate that is, again, sort of leaves sort of ambiguous window around their data collection. The index date for the first infection was set at the earliest date of positive tests or COVID-19 diagnoses. The second SARS-CoV-2 infection was identified by positive PCR antigen tests or diagnosis of COVID-19 occurred at least. Get this one at my door. Just it's postman. Just bear with me. Hey. Just. Hey. That's how easy it is, folks. That's how easy it is. Send a slide. I can check it. Now, I had some that were stuck in customs for quite some while we argued with them that it didn't constitute the need for pharmaceutical and medical device license. Let's see. So this is from Tamara, and just see nicely packed slides. Yeah. Ready for diagnosis. So there you go. Synapticlabs.com. I'll put the link again. If you want to see if it's worth going and pursuing the really in-depth therapy, but therapy that does work. I've demonstrated that today, or many a times. I showed the slides. You can wind back the stream just to see how that looked. All right, so where were we? So yeah, all about when they diagnose COVID. Okay, what's the covariates? So a comprehensive set of patient characteristics collected during the baseline period and before the index date were considered as confounders and adjusted for using exact and propensity score matching to balance first and second infection episodes between study groups, which was based on previous literature, clinical and epidemiological knowledge. I know how we feel, or I feel, about epidemiological knowledge. noisy and open to abuse. These characteristics included demographic factors, age at index date, sex, female or male, as recorded in the EHR, and race and ethnicity. Now, I tend to lean into that there is a racial difference in those who are affected. So anyway, lists of the different descriptors, long previous chronic conditions indicated, defined by the pediatric medical complexity algorithm, no chronic, non-complex chronic condition or complex chronic condition, and a list of pre-existing chronic conditions, healthcare utilization factors, the number of inpatient and outpatient and emergency department visits, unique medications or prescriptions, and negative COVID-19 tests, vaccine information, dose of COVID-19 vaccine before the index, 0, 1 to 2, or greater than 3. Now, it's look in 2022, if you've received greater than 3 vaccines, that's you up to date with any of their suggestions with respect to taking the prescribed booster profile. So let's see how that, I hope that's going to be in the graphs as we look. So where was I? So up or equal to or greater than 3, and interval since the last COVID-19 immunization score. No vaccine, less than 4 months or greater than 4 months. The severity of acute COVID-19, non-severe, including asymptomatic, and mild or severe, including moderate and severe. Yeah, these are kind of boring elements to go through, but it's describing the extent and framework in which they're trying to extract out their diagnostic. So it's kind of important to know, and hopefully we'll get to something approximating results after this. And of course, entry into their database and an indicator variable for each participating site to account for difference in patient characteristics and healthcare delivery. Outcomes. The primary endpoint was a clinician documented diagnosis of PASC, which has been increasingly adopted in clinical settings as a marker for post-COVID-19 conditions. Secondary endpoints were a set of 24 symptoms and conditions possibly associated with pediatric PASC based on recommendations from pediatric physicians and previously published literature. The symptoms and conditions included abdominal pain, abnormal liver enzymes, acute kidney injury, acute respiratory distress syndrome, arrhythmias, kind of, we've gone through all that before, all the signs you associate with PASC, hair loss being one. Mine happened long before that, but yeah, I first lost hair when I had my first post-viral condition in my 20s, 30 years ago. I remember it just falling out in handfuls. And if it's we think that there's a underlying consistency between those ME/CFS pathologies and PASC, which is these amyloid-like inclusions in the blood, and things like hair follicles are very sensitive to blood flow. Let's see. Statistical analysis. Okay. Should we? Pairwise censoring approach. Okay. Not to propensity scores. Okay. We use modified Poisson regression. Okay. Yes. Data results. Okay, let's have a look. So we identified 186,559 children. They've changed the font every time they use their numbers. It's irritating. And adolescents who had at least one positive SARS-CoV-2 PCR antigen or serology test or COVID-19 diagnosis recorded in the Recover database between March 1st, 2020 and October 13th, 2023. 465,717 children and adolescents were eligible for inclusion, of whom 407,300 were 87.5 contributed to the first infection episode, and 58,417. I've already gone through all this at the abstract level, but we'll do it again, I suppose. To the second infection episode from January 1st, 2022 to October 13th, 2023. 233,832, 50.2 patients were male, and 231,875, 49.8 were female. So it's impacting males more. Imagine my shock. I wonder if that works out as significant. Hang on, let me just keep up with the chat here as well. CD virus. Yeah, well, the age we live in, right? Diddy Blood would like a word with you, young. Fuck, man. Bleaks. All right, so thank you for that, Coopers. Right, where were we? So the mean age was 8.17 years, standard deviation 6.58, and I guess we have some flow diagram as to how they're doing there. We've done that. We've spent more than enough time on that. So age, is this table a scroller? Figure viewer. Okay, so age category. And here we go. So we did this. So they've broke it up into 0 to 4, 5 to 11 years, 12 to 20 years, and first, second overall. And just my look at that is the 12 to 20 age category is the one impacted the most. Race and ethnicity. Non-Hispanic whites made up the bulk, I would say, 42.4%. And then it's non-Hispanic blacks. Hispanics are actually impacted more than white. Now, they should do, rather than just shoving that out as a raw percentage, I think there should be some sort of analysis of the ratio per or the number per population, right? So it's like the prison statistics, right? If there's one group that makes up 50% of your prison population, but they only say make up 15% of your overall population, then you know you have a problem. And I'm unsure as to whether they've done that here. So was there obesity involved? 41.5% no. Yes, 38.7%. How do you not know if the child is obese or not? Isn't that the first thing you do? Is it like that's some metrics you can get off a child where they don't cry and bawl so much when you take them to a doctor, right? You can at least get them to step on a scale and take their height. So no chronic condition, 73.1%. So that's disturbing. Then their definitions of that, whatever that was, the pediatric complexity scale, non-complex chronic and complex chronic. Okay, so but primarily no chronic condition, so impacting the healthiest of the population. And number of inpatient visits, so 0 being that that's just done through telehealth, I suppose. Number of emergency department visits, or whatever. Number of unique medications or prescriptions. So on second, it is less than the first, but I wonder where's vaccines in here? Number of unique, is that coming under unique medications or prescriptions? Because there's this equal to or greater than 3. Where's their table? Sorry, flow chart. Does that not overtly obvious? Dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, so 0. Those who think it's all vaccines are not going to like this result. So 74% of the post-reinfection long COVID symptoms, 74%. 1 to 2 is 19%, and greater than 3 is 6.1%. There you go. It's not me. That's their statistics, and it seems like they've got a interval since last COVID immunization, not infection. And again, no vaccine make up the greater proportion of the long-term incapacitated here. And the simple fact of the matter is that when I get a delivery, I would say it's running about half and half with respect to whether the person has been vaccinated or not. Let's just see what we have. I don't want to give too much away, but these look like quite extensive clinical notes. Thank you very much. Let's see. I'm just trying to see if there's a vaccination in here. Not vaccinated, had COVID 3 times. And so funnily enough, round 2 was COVID in this instance. Felt like I'd been exposed to a toxic substance. I swear it searched through my body looking for inflammation. Very sorry to hear that. Followed by cancer diagnosis. And then a third time with COVID. Gut, aiming for the gut. In this instance. So a non-vaccinated individual sending me their clinical data. So they have high D-dimer, SARS-CoV-2 antibodies, Brinogen is normal, and just looking at that, not very healthy looking blood. But anyway, the point I was getting at was just, there you go, that came in the post whilst I was getting the stream ready. Thank you for sending such detailed notes. It helps a lot. And if I've got the energy, maybe after I've looked at this manuscript, we can have a quick look at that. Just see what we see. So again, I'll state my position. I remain agnostic as to the cause. I see it in both cases. People who are vaccinated, people who just get schwacked by the virus. And to me, when I see the pathology, it looks the same under the microscope. That's, I'm sorry if that data doesn't fit your preconceived notions in this instance. So I think actually that would be like the core of their data. So let's just see. So it's primarily in vaccinated, and 50% of, if I interpreted that right, it was 50% of the total who had a first COVID diagnosis within their time frame, presented with a second, and then had PASC. Okay, so there was a significantly higher risk of PASC across multiple outcomes among patients with a second infection episode than those with first infection episodes. Reinfection was associated with a significantly increased risk of an overall PASC diagnosis. Several potential PASC-related symptoms and conditions also showed increased risk, including myocarditis, changes in taste and smell, thrombophlebitis and thromboembolism, heart disease, acute injury, fluid and electrolyte disturbance. There must be a chart, yes. Okay. So here we can see movement away from baseline being healthy. It goes down, they've rank ordered it, so there's PASC, and then what are the symptoms within the PASC that describes the condition. Myocarditis, changes in taste and smell, thrombophlebitis, thromboembolism, heart disease, acute kidney injury, fluid and electrolyte disturbance, generalized pain, arrhythmia. Just sounds like my life. Literally. Fatigue, malaise, musculoskeletal pains. Oh God, please, waifu. My back, rub my back. Moloch-PRIONS, bitch mag. Well, you know, it's for YouTube, right? And I don't know if it's having this degree of impact. So 50% of those that, so it's 50% of those that presented with a second infection per the diagnosis of the first, whatever that window was, are showing PASC and some combination of these symptoms. Is that am I being melodramatic in this instance? Probably not when it involves children. And you know, if we're to take the data at face value, vaccines prevented the emergence of PASC. The increased risk of PASC after a second infection persists across subgroups defined by vaccination status and acute phase severity, indicating that the heightened risk is consistent regardless of these factors. Interesting. Now they're saying vaccination doesn't matter. There. So they're vaccinated and they are... there is an increase. I would say that's almost more. That doesn't make sense with the charts that they were putting up here. Anyway, like this is probably easier to look at. In fact, they look the same. So you know, I would say from that, vaccine has done nothing. It's not. I don't know. You could probably argue that these symptoms up here, which is myocarditis, is worse in non-vaccinated, but PASC as a diagnosis is higher in vaccinated than unvaccinated, and vaccinated doesn't have. So it's obviously depending upon the cluster of symptoms, right? So how do you which ones do you or do you not want? And I'd rather not have any of them. Shouldn't have happened in the first place. Should have stopped doing all these biowarfare programs surreptitiously through universities and institutes, and concealed biowarfare, how should we say, disease surveillance programs. But so severe acute COVID-19 is less for vaccinated, worse for vaccinated. But their primary definition of PASC is worse. And again, it just comes down to which cluster of symptoms you think is worse. But okay, so what I would take from that table is vaccination prevented severe COVID in those who were up to date, but it didn't help in long hauler type conditions, and it's difficult. Oh no, let's think about this. So you can't, if they're becoming reinfected, right? So that means in this study, they've done the filter to at least say there was a secondary diagnosis confirmed by PCR or antigen test. Now, okay, I get it that there's also the caveat that it was just clinically noted, but let's just give them the presumption that the diagnostics are at a level where we can be confident that there was some objective measure. And so I don't know, like, if to put that down in front of parents, right? Your children may survive or may get less severe COVID, but the chances of them being free from these long incapacitating symptoms, not so much. Not at all. Which to go with, and my gut instinct is to lean towards let nature do the job in this instance, and if it can't handle the job, then we'll try and help it with medical intervention then, because again, you're talking about children in this instance, and again, it's an unknown. I don't like the idea of how this vaccine works. I've made that abundantly clear. But again, I'm agnostic to what causes the underlying pathophysiology. All right, so a pre-specified sensitivity analysis of negative control outcome experiments indicated a slight systematic error as shown by a minor shift in point estimates with wider confidence intervals. As a result, some associations became non-significant, including those for POTS or dysautonomia, cognitive impairment, skin conditions, fever and chills, respiratory signs and symptoms, and cardiovascular signs and symptoms. Analysis restricted patients who had at least one visit during the post-acute phase, and follow-up during 90 to 179 days post-infection showed similar results to the primary analyses. Subgroup analysis shows RRS, what they mean for PASC diagnosis and PASC-related symptoms and conditions, comparing the second infection to the first infection within each subgroup. In age-stratified analysis, adolescents aged 12 to 20 and children aged 5 to 11 years had higher, I suppose that's reinfection maybe, of PASC diagnosis after reinfection, whereas children aged 0 to 4 had higher RRs of thrombophlebitis and thromboembolism and abnormal liver enzymes. In sex-stratified analysis, both male and females showed consistently elevated R and R is. Where did that suddenly come from? RR. Yeah. Relative risk. Okay, thank you. Where was I? Discussion. Okay. So our large, diverse cohort enables clinically verified outcomes, detailed covariate data, and extended follow-up using a second versus first infection design. Within the Omicron dominant period, we aligned calendar time and time from infection and adjusted for confounding using propensity score matching. This approach allowed us to isolate reinfection-specific risk and extends the literature on PASC development beyond the early pandemic period, which has been the primary focus of most pediatric studies to date. Our findings align with emerging evidence evidence on immune waning post-infection, although T-cell responses remain stable. Neutralizing antibody concentrations decline over time, possibly compromising immunity upon reinfection. That I'm not so sure about. During the Omicron era, protection from natural infection diminished more rapidly, with reinfections becoming more common, especially among young adults aged 18 to 49. These dynamics elevate the need to understand reinfection risks in children, a group increasingly affected yet understudied in this context. I don't know. Like their text often wavers from their tables, right? PASC primary endpoint vaccinated. Odds ratio 2.53 versus 2.21 relative risk, obviously, but I don't see much difference here. Now, you could say that myocarditis is diagnosed less in vaccinated, plus the disorders of smell and taste. And like I say, the fact that they're not seeing these diagnoses makes me skeptical of their data, because I would have said that was a pretty nailed on data point, myocarditis and vaccine exposure. So it's a confounding paper, put it that way. Okay, so did that. Previous pediatric studies further support the clinical relevance of our findings. Long COVID in pediatric populations has been associated with proteomic biosignatures, POTS, exercise intolerance, tell me about it, vascular problems, and CNS issues. Our real-world data add to this literature by showing that post-acute sequelae persist across reinfections and continue to impose a measurable clinical burden. Our pediatric findings also align with adult studies. Research in adults show that long COVID symptoms often worsen with repeated infections, suggesting potential shared mechanisms across age groups. These cross-population findings collectively emphasize the importance of ongoing clinical vigilance, mechanistic research, and strategies to mitigate reinfection-related risk. Please give us more money. Let's see. A previous study showed that immunization can reduce PASC risk by preventing infections. Persistently low pediatric vaccination rates due to milder Omicron symptoms delayed vaccine availability for those younger than 5 years. Low booster uptake among older children and public COVID-19 fatigue remain a challenge. Strengthening public health messaging and expanding access to vaccination might help reduce the burden of PASC in children. But your charts show that it doesn't help. Our study has several strengths. First, we leveraged the Recover EHR database to construct a large pediatric cohort with longitudinal follow-up. Yes. Just how rigorous their data is. Nothing world-changing in this paragraph. Fourth, we conducted this sensitivity analysis, including negative control experiments to address systematic bias and control unmeasured confounders analysis across different selected populations. Yeah, but again, when the odds ratio and the relative risk look like the way they do on these graphs, that's there's no difference, right? Unless I'm reading this wrong, right? But vaccinated, past diagnosis, odds rate, relative risk ratio, 2.53. Unvaccinated, 2.21. Severe acute COVID-19, vaccinated is reduced odds of severe infection, whereas it's greater in non-vaccinated. But then all the rest of these symptoms seem remarkably close. Do they say anything more about vaccines? I think we got the gist of that. So now they're just talking about confounders, and there are many with this type of study. So subgroup analysis suggested potential differences in PASC risk by age, sex, and race and ethnicity. All right, like I've been telling you. These signals, combined with previous evidence of disparities in past incidents by socio-economic and demographic factors, highlight the need for future studies to explore how reinfection risk interacts with social determinants of health. Yeah, look, man, I'm sure if you're poor and your bedroom is covered in mold, your chances of having a worse outcome increase. I don't think you need to be a genius, or you need this type of study to infer that. Well, anyway, in summary, this study shows an increased risk of PASC in children and adolescents after SARS-CoV-2 reinfection. These findings add to previous evidence linking pediatric long COVID to multi-system effects and highlight the need to promote vaccination in younger populations and support ongoing research to better understand PASC. Yeah, well, I'm not convinced by this data point. In fact, you could say, okay, you might have diminished severe COVID, but you've actually made PASC worse in the vaccinated group. So, I know, like, my gut instinct is just probably better to have the child come into contact, have mitigation in place so they don't become severe, and be on overwatch to make sure that these other symptoms are or you treat these symptoms as they emerge. And I know that's difficult in children, right? They can play things up or not tell you, etc. Mine tell me everything just to try and get off school, but I just tell them, you don't have to lie to me about symptoms. I'd rather you don't lie to me and just say you want a day off school. Daddy's very generous with days off, so because I want to know if there's a real problem, right? Particularly in the current environment. So let's see. Are you able to say a rough percentage of children were affected by amyloid burden in your tests? I can't tell you how many children. I can tell you if the child has an amyloid burden. Should you send me the test, please go to synapticlabs.com and all the instructions are there. In fact, I need the bathroom real quick, but I'll play this. Pretty Hate Machine says, can I benefit from this treatment? Yes. I think it's a pretty universal approach because it's so it's just dependent upon literal physical parameters filtering, strong filtering of the blood, And sorry, I'm interrupting the video, but yes, I can benefit from it. Again, go to, I'll put the link in the chat once this is playing. Oh, I hate hearing myself. And here, use that link. That link will send you where to send blood. That's enough. You get the idea, right? Prepare your slides like that. Put it in the post. They'll arrive at my door. I will put your email and a cover letter in there. I will contact you and we will go through the slides in detail. It usually takes a couple of hours, and I can give you a result of if you have a disease burden. Now, you know, here I have some that just arrived this afternoon whilst I was streaming, not vaccinated. Let's just take me. Oh, let me just label. Of course, there's no pen around. Ah, yeah, we go. What date did I do this? It was 10/25. All right, so take my sample out and place it there for now. And here we go. I'll just take one out the pack right now and we'll have a look. Someone who is a reinfection, very, well, obviously not pediatric in this instance, but fitting the diagnostic criteria with respect to getting infection. So let's see if they taped this. No. And perfect slides. Bravo. And I will just, and let's have a look what we see. Yes, this is where the doctor gets concerned. When I see fibrilliform, and you can see that it is, there's a line there, but it's covered by the blood, and the blood is, the background is autofluorescing quite strongly. Okay, now let's just have a look. Let's find our little fibril form. And let's find... made a fresh batch of fire flavin yesterday, day before. I need to look at the screen here. Just bear with me. So, you can see that the that's it's camera reset, but when I don't know, like if I could sort of false color this effect. I don't know why the camera does it, but it's it actually pulls out features that are useful. The problem is that I don't know exactly what's gone on with the camera to give you that image on the screen, right? It's a sort of false color representation of the fluorescence that's happening, and you'll find once I've reset the camera that that'll glow green. But if I had a button where I could do that rather than me sort of post-processing the images to sort of give false color, because false color gives you a sort of level of, or just another way to look at the data. No, I can't find that. There we go. Just put that in there. Let's see. Just wait for that to come back up. So there. Now, it's at this point where were I talking to this particular patient, I would be saying it's time to make an intervention in your with respect to your, or it's time to look further, right? So now we should be doing the cytokine panel with the Magplex, and I will, of course, there's testing to do with the citation 5, so we can quantify the degree to which she's carrying these sort of amyloid-like, and there's another one right next to it. And microclot, small microclots. There's some in here, sort of hanging on the end to the left there. But you can see that where the dye has hit the section, there's a lot of fluorescence and large fibrillar forms in there. So I will, of course, reach out and schedule Zoom call with this person, but we kind of lucked out. That literally came through the door whilst I was doing the stream. And what did she say? That was Omicron, and the person felt like it was crawling through her body, their body, finding areas of inflammation. So look, the thing to take away from this is there is practical steps that you can take now that were not there before. Any news on Good Doggy? Good Doggy's recovering and still a bit under the weather, but he's I'm in touch with him, and the rough and tumble of Spurger, even the most aspy of us need a break now and again. And so, Good Dog is alive, so don't worry there. And you've just had a real-time demonstration of the diagnostics in action, and now this person can take more solid steps, and that's something up until very recently I wasn't able to do. I could give you some measure with which to often. So what happens is people contact me because they get ignored by the medical system, and the how would you say the and so they want to, and when you're given the diagnosis functional neurological disorder, what that means in basic parlance is it's in your head, all the symptoms that you're feeling. And I say that it's not all in your head, it's very likely in your bloodstream. It's quite possible to detect and now quantify and now treat. And so just to remind everyone, what does treatment look like? Here is someone that the sort of false color approach. This is before treatment, right? There are autofluorescing signatures in the blood that disappear after treatment. So apheresis with stem cells, and if we look at the microclotting, you can see sort of fibrilliform and lots of microclots, and it's reduced, massively reduced. And so with that, I'll say, the only reason I'm able to do this is because I donate my time, but people support the work through that link down below, the blue link. Doesn't matter, small. The doc loves large, but every little bit counts to keep us in the game, right? And to get to this point where we're able to get replicable diagnoses, and now we have treatments. Have you tried using Grok for talking Zog or SARS? ChatGPT is chit in comparison if seeking truth bombs. I'm not sure what I need to ask ChatGPT or Grok in this instance. I have a pretty good handle on what the pathology is. And to take a step back, as much as I'm not saying, I'll put it this way, in terms of applications at the bench, the only thing that I've seen work is stem cell growth factors. All the other nutraceuticals, I've been unable to get a consistent signal with respect to it doing something. Doesn't happen. Stem cell growth factors, yes. And it's taken, right now, we're at 18 months now of doing this work. So, take it for what it is. But there's something concrete. And the other thing is it's not outrageously expensive like the US. So you want a stem cell treatment in the US? That's tens of thousands of dollars. Tens. Just for one treatment. Okay. And even the diagnostics is way more expensive than going down this methodology. The issue here is if you get a signal, what are you going to do about it? And right now, that sort of means committing to an airfare, and I think most cases you'd be able to treat in a week, but that's treatment every day with respect to apheresis, stem cell infusions, etc. So something to that's what you should be thinking about if you want to deal with that pathology. And that's not to say that there aren't other issues that need fixing, but if I'm pretty sure fixing what's circulating in the blood will go a long way to fixing what's happening in other organ systems. But the problem is with amyloid-like conditions, once it's penetrating into other organs, you're starting to progress towards the severe end of the spectrum. And so the quicker you clean that, the quicker you get a diagnosis, the quicker you clean that blood out, and get those inflammatory cytokines under control, the quicker you're going to correct, and hopefully the body's own sort of healing process will kick in as well. So the people that were vaccinated presenting these blood symptoms more or less than people just infected? Right now, it's half and half with what I have. So I have now over 100 people and 400 samples. So basically I get 4 samples per patient usually. I don't know, it's not good, but there's one slide on there. I don't know how well you can pick that out. You can't, can you? Oh yeah, if I just catch there, so you can see the 2 dark spots. So I get 4. If the slide has been prepared how I asked, then that's 4 samples, and it's building up into quite the database. The only issue is it's skewed. It's not a random sampling from the population at large. It's people who feel and know that there's something wrong 9 times out of 10. Sometimes people just send it out of curiosity, or just want to donate to the database. But yeah, I'll stop there. That's quite the stream. Tomorrow we'll be continuing the discussion about the failings of Grok, using Grok and ChatGPT to get answers around these issues. So whoever asked that question before, and you can go and watch the stream I did yesterday with Nick. Tomorrow Commander Rixie will be joining us, and not only will we sort of catch up on the role of special virus cancer programs, biowarfare programs, and its corollary and the emergence of HIV, but we'll take a look at not Zika, Ebola, and look that it's the same group of people who are involved in the same messaging being put out into the search engines that the search engine will rely on as being authoritative. And we know that these people have conflicts of interest, and as such, the data should be treated as tainted at best, disregarded probably in most instances because of these conflict of interests. Let's see, crazy story about Grok. I asked it on 2 separate occasions which would be dropped on us next. It first said bird flu, then prions. Things like you. Yeah, but the LLM is just, if it's taking data in real time and people are taking what I'm talking about and plugging that in, it's going to impact the weighting that the LLM uses. So, you know, again, just be careful about what that means, right? And we'll discuss it tomorrow at more length. I'm getting tired, and I'm looking so much better now. Well, I'm literally in bed right now because I'm taking Eliquis anticoagulants because I've had chest pain reemerge. And when did that first start? When the Citation 5 arrived and I was lifting it into the lab. And then that evening I had chest pains. And it's been a sort of recurring thing since. I checked my blood. You can go look at the beginning of this stream. And I have the same pathologies as we just saw. And not so much fibrrilliforms. Mine's very much the micro clot form. But I've only just started looking at that sample, right? And I haven't done the slide preparation to look for microclots. It's only because I can see the large fibrrilliforms, right? They're a macro aggregation in the clot. So yeah, there's that. So I'm out of here. Take care. God bless. And on that disturbing note, I think we'll go with... Oh, this outro is not working. Why is it not working? Maybe I can figure it out. Is it working? Yeah, there's no sound, right? I don't know why that's not playing. I have to get the text ready to the issue. Yeah, I don't know why that's so. Do you hear it on your side of the screen? Or but the music's not playing? How do you see the scale? Is there music? Yes. Yes.
Bro, you don't know how angry I am. You do, I was just leaving for fucking work. You do not understand how fucking pissed off. After reading that little line, I will be arrested for not taking a fucking vaccine. Fuck these cappers! I will fucking kill each fucking capper, I swear! This is not a fucking joke anymore. This is fucking dead serious. I am fucking dead serious. These people don't know who the fuck they're actually playing with. Fuck these cappers. No fucking vaccine or MRA will ever flow through my fucking blood. Never! I will fucking die! Fucking fighting for my fucking beliefs and my fucking forefathers and my fucking lineage! Fuck these motherfuckers!
All that
I like this guy.
So check 45,000 turned in. Matrix root. Boom.
Fuck these cappers!